Have you ever been in that awkward situation, you know the one, where someone approaches you, clearly recognizing you, and you draw a complete blank? Their face looks familiar, maybe, but it's like a piece of a puzzle that just won't click into place. You smile, nod, mutter a vague greeting, all while your mind races, desperately trying to conjure a name, a context, anything to avoid that incredibly uncomfortable moment of admitting you have no idea who they are. It's a common experience, a little social hiccup we all navigate from time to time. But what if that wasn't an occasional blunder? What if, for some people, every new interaction, every familiar encounter felt like walking into a room full of strangers? Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating and often misunderstood world of people who struggle to remember faces, exploring the psychological underpinnings of this phenomenon. From the neurological puzzle of prosopagnosia to the intricate dance of social anxiety, it's a journey into perception, memory, and the very fabric of our social connections. And it might just change the way you look at every face you meet. At its core, remembering faces seems so fundamental, doesn't it? It's something most of us do without conscious effort, a kind of automatic superpower that allows us to navigate our complex social landscapes. We recognize friends, family, colleagues, even that barista who always gets your order just right, all with a quick glance. But for a significant portion of the population, this seemingly simple act is a monumental challenge. Let's start with the more direct neurological aspect, a condition known as prosopagnosia, often called face blindness. Imagine waking up one day, or perhaps living your entire life, where faces, no matter how familiar, simply don't register in the way they do for others. It's not about poor memory in general. These individuals can remember names, dates, facts, and even voices or distinct mannerisms perfectly well. But the face itself, that unique constellation of features that distinguishes one person from another, remains elusive. It's like trying to read a book where all the letters are there, but they're scrambled, making it impossible to form words, let alone sentences. Think about it this way. For most of us, our brains have a specialized region, often referred to as the fusiform face area, FFA, which acts like a highly sophisticated facial recognition software. It processes faces holistically, recognizing patterns and nuances that allow us to instantly identify individuals. For someone with prosopagnosia, this software might be buggy, underdeveloped, or even damaged. It's not that they don't see the features. They can tell you someone has blue eyes, a pointy nose, or a beard, but they can't integrate these features into a recognizable whole. It's like seeing a collection of individual puzzle pieces without being able to assemble the final image. There are different forms of prosopagnosia. Some people are born with it, known as congenital prosopagnosia. They've never experienced the world in any other way, often developing elaborate coping mechanisms from childhood. Then there's acquired prosopagnosia, which can result from brain injury, stroke, or neurodegenerative diseases. This can be particularly jarring, as someone who once had normal face recognition suddenly finds themselves in a world where familiar faces become utterly alien. Imagine the shock, the profound sense of loss, when you can no longer recognize your own spouse, your children, or even your reflection in the mirror without relying on other cues. Consider the daily implications. Social gatherings become minefields. A simple trip to the grocery store can be fraught with anxiety. unsure if that person waving excitedly is a long-lost friend or a complete stranger. Children with prosopagnosia might struggle in school, unable to distinguish classmates or even their teachers, leading to feelings of isolation or being misunderstood. They might be labeled as aloof, rude, or unintelligent, simply because they can't perform this one crucial social task that most of us take for granted. So, how do people with prosopagnosia cope? They become masters of contextual clues. They recognize you by your voice, your gait, the specific shirt you always wear, your unique hairstyle, or even the way you carry yourself. They might memorize the location of their desk at work, knowing that anyone sitting there must be their colleague, John. They piece together identity from a mosaic of non-facial information, a constant conscious effort that most of us perform subconsciously. It's an incredible display of the brain's adaptability, but also a constant mental burden. But what if the difficulty isn't purely a perceptual or neurological one? What if the struggle to remember faces is intertwined with something deeper, something rooted in our emotional landscape? This brings us to the complex interplay with social anxiety. Social anxiety is more than just shyness. It's an intense fear of social situations driven by a deep-seated worry about being judged, scrutinized, or humiliated by others. And crucially, it can profoundly impact how we process and remember information about people, including their faces. Here's where it gets interesting. When someone with high social anxiety enters a room, their internal focus often shifts dramatically. Instead of objectively observing the people around them, their attention is largely turned inward. They are scrutinizing their own performance, agonizing over what they might say, how they look, whether they're blushing, or if their hands are shaking. This self-focused attention consumes valuable cognitive resources that would otherwise be used to process external stimuli, like the faces of those they're interacting with. Think of it like this. Your brain has a limited capacity for processing information at any given moment. If a significant portion of that capacity is consumed by the hypervigilance of social anxiety, monitoring for perceived threats, anticipating negative judgments, rehearsing responses, there's simply less bandwidth left for encoding the details of a new face. It's not that they can't see the face, but their brain isn't prioritizing its detailed analysis and storage because it's too busy dealing with the perceived social threat. So, while someone with prosopagnosia struggles with the mechanism of face recognition, someone with social anxiety might struggle with the attention required for it. The result, outwardly, can often look similar: a failure to recognize someone, leading to awkwardness and embarrassment. And this is where the vicious cycle begins. The anxiety causes them to miss cues, leading to a failure of recognition. This failure then triggers more anxiety, the fear of offending someone, of appearing rude or unintelligent, which further reinforces the self-focused attention, making it even harder to remember faces in future encounters. It's a self-perpetuating feedback loop. Imagine being at a networking event. For someone with social anxiety, the room isn't just filled with people, it's filled with potential judges. They might scan the room, but their gaze isn't settling on faces to create detailed memories. Instead, it might dart away from direct eye contact or linger briefly while their internal monologue screams, "Am I standing weird? Is my hair okay? What if I say something stupid?" Their brain is so busy running these internal scripts, these fear-driven narratives, that the unique features of the person they just met simply don't get properly encoded into long-term memory. Later, when they see that person again, they genuinely don't recognize them, not because their face recognition system is faulty, but because their anxiety prevented the initial memory formation. This subtle yet profound difference highlights a critical distinction. For prosopagnosia, it's often a perceptual or neurological deficit. For social anxiety, it's more of an attentional and emotional blockade. However, it's crucial to remember that these aren't mutually exclusive. It's entirely possible for someone to experience both. A person with mild prosopagnosia might find their condition significantly exacerbated by social anxiety, creating a double bind that makes social interactions incredibly challenging. The inherent difficulty in face recognition could easily fuel anxieties about social performance, creating a highly stressful internal landscape. Consider the philosophical implications here. Our faces are deeply intertwined with our identity, our individuality. When we look at someone, we don't just see a collection of features. We see a person, a history, a relationship. To be unable to recognize a face is, in a way, to be cut off from a fundamental layer of human connection. It speaks to the fragility of our perceptions and how much we rely on these unspoken visual cues to navigate our shared reality. It challenges our assumption that seeing is a universal, uniform experience. For some, seeing a face is a constant act of interpretation, a conscious puzzle, rather than an effortless recognition. So, what can we take away from this? For those who struggle with face recognition, whether due to prosopagnosia or social anxiety, understanding is the first step. For individuals with prosopagnosia, developing explicit strategies is key. Memorizing unique features, relying on voices, gait, context. They might even explicitly tell people, "I have face blindness, so please don't be offended if I don't recognize you out of context."